Alrighty, hello everybody. Um, kind of trying to add a little bit of a background, I guess. I don't know how well you can see it, but I'm trying to add somewhat of a background to these videos to kind of make it a little bit more appealing. Um, until I can get my Top Gun poster and stuff up behind me, I got to figure out placement and stuff for that. I should have a couple Ant-Man posters coming as well, and I might start doing like because I have the room to do it, so I might start like moving from background to background, kind of to keep it a little bit more authentic. Once I can get my band flags up on the other wall over there as well, and just some stuff, maybe some shelves made for these partition walls down here, and I might have to actually repaint one of the sections over there uh, because I put some Velcro stuff up, thinking that that would hold my dartboard, but I needed something a little bit stronger than that for backing. So if anybody has any suggestions for that as well, you can put it in a comment down below, because I seem to be getting more traction, or who even knows at this point how much more traction I'm going to be getting on this channel by, I guess this video will probably come out in sometime in July or August. I know that seems long, but I do try to keep in order of what I'm actually filming and uploading in that order as best as I can. I know sometimes it's kind of all over the place, but I try to keep it in the best order that I can, because yeah, sometimes I can't remember exactly what order I filmed what in, but I mean, I usually do the movie theater movies first in the order I watch them in, and then I do everything else afterwards in that in that same order. Or at least I try to keep it in that order anyway. This time it might be a little simpler because I messed up on a few of the intro screens for my videos, so I think I will kind of be able to remember exactly what order I did everything in. I guess we'll see. It's going to be kind of easier because I did series of movies this time around rather than just kind of one random movie here and there. But that's the intro of this video. I feel like I've kind of talked enough for this intro. So today we are going to be reviewing Scream from 2022 or Scream 5, whichever title you want to go with. Now, this is a requel, I guess that's what they're considered, so it's like a soft reboot of the franchise, and kind of like a passing of the torch to new characters, obviously. So it's kind of an interesting way to do it instead of just calling it Scream 5 and I guess completely continuing on the series. Now, obviously, throughout this movie, there's definitely throwbacks to old characters and so on and so forth, and even some voice acting in the movie from Drew Barrymore, Jamie Kennedy. I guess there was a whole bunch of them actually that did just voices. Let's just see here. Who else was just like a voice? Yeah, there was quite a few actually that I was kind of interested to see that came back that had deaths in previous movies and ended up doing just voice. Oh, so Matthew Lillard was the flamethrower Ghostface. Henry Winkler, who was the principal from, was it the second movie? I guess also had a voice in the movie. Geez, who else? Clayton Frank. No, that wasn't one of the voices. Sorry. Adam Brody. Yeah, I said Drew Barrymore already. So Adam Brody was also, I guess, a party guest, but he was just a voice. So they never actually show their faces, which I think is kind of cool. They just kind of leave them as a voice. Now, I will say the introduction of new characters. Now, obviously, I'd actually never seen this movie before. I mean, it's only a year old, so I guess saying that really isn't that big of a deal, I suppose. But I guess it was kind of one of those ones that I just ended up missing due to the movie theaters and stuff just kind of flip-flopping back and forth on rules and regulations and all that stuff, and I just said, oh, I'll wait till it comes out on digital for this one, that's fine. Now, I do actually want to go back and watch the Scream show just to kind of see how it compares to these films. Now, in this film, I will say Jenna Ortega is in it, and I think actually watching Wednesday first made me fall in love with her a little bit more as an actress, because she seems to kind of be very diverse, because in that show she was just kind of like dead-faced and had to be kind of very stale with her emotions. In this one, she was much different, and definitely not, definitely a big switch from playing Wednesday to this, I would say, as she's more the victim in this one, and Wednesday she's more like the tough, all around the edges, doesn't care what people think about her sort of girl, right? So yeah, it was very interesting to see her in this role compared to that. And we got some other people coming into this film. Melissa Barrera, I want to say is her how you pronounce her name, playing Sam Carpenter. Jenna Ortega playing Tara Carpenter. Jack Quaid playing Ricky Kirsch, and Mickey Madison playing Amber Freeman. And then obviously we have like the cast from the previous films: David Arquette playing Dooley Riley, Courtney Cox playing Gail Weathers, and Nev Campbell returning to Sidney Prescott. And there were obviously some other characters. Dylan Minnette played Wes Hicks, which was supposed to be a, I guess like a tribute sort of thing to Wes Craven for all that he had done with these films, which was kind of cool. Jasmine Savoy Brown, Mindy Meeks Martin, who was like the horror movie flick nerd, similar to what Jamie Kennedy's character would have done back in the original movies. And so what was his actual name? Oh my god, it's slipping my mind. Let's just see here. Oh, okay. What was his name in the movies? Jesus. I'm surprised they don't just say that. Randy Meeks, right. Okay, because his sister is in this one again, too. Let's just see here. Where is she? Yeah, because she's one of the... They go over to her house, actually, and they're kind of welcomed with open arms, and Dewey and her share a hug in the living room, and yeah, they go on about talking about the kind of stuff that can happen to them now, that it's a requel type situation, I guess. So I guess it's kind of like a nobody's off the table type deal again. I think was basically how they worded it. Yeah, and obviously the two killers that we find out at the end are trying to bring kind of like nostalgia back to the franchise by obviously we find out that Sam is actually the daughter of Billy Loomis, so she's kind of got the killer's blood in her, which is kind of proven at the end of this film when she just stabs her boyfriend, or, well, I guess at this point they would have been considered broken up, seeing as it ended up being Richie was one of the killers, which I found kind of funny because it seemed like he was scared throughout the entire movie and did a really good job of that, I guess. Kind of similar to what the other characters did. They had to act like they were actually scared, and then it was like, boom, all of a sudden they're the killer. Now, as for the reveal of the first killer, it was kind of surprising because they went kind of throughout the movie as not really trusting anybody. And now who was so Chad Meeks Martin was Mindy's brother. So Mindy and Chad were brother and sister. Who else was in this movie? Oh yeah, Sheriff Judy Hicks was back. So she was she was the mother of Wes Hicks, obviously, which is, where did he go? And he ends up dying in the movie. So it seems like he's kind of coming after, I guess, what they consider the legacy characters. But he's doing it very slowly, where the two killers, we always assume there's two, because that seems to be the formula for these Scream movies, that there's always at least two killers, except for in Scream 3, where there was only one, Sidney's brother. That was the only movie where there was ever a solo Scream killer, because he was supposed to be filming his own movie. Now, I think I may have forgot to mention that in the in my Scream 3 review, and if I did, I'm sorry, because that may have just slipped my mind when I was actually talking about the movie, because I did talk about the whole set and things. So it is kind of cool, yeah, that they are kind of throwing it back to kind of bringing the nostalgia feel back into the movies. Now, this felt a little different near the end, because the two killers are actually able to trap basically two generations of families in one house. So they've got Gail. Now, Dewey's already dead by this point because he ended up dying at the hospital trying to save trying to save everybody, because he remembers all of a sudden, right when they're getting in the elevator, right, you have to shoot them in the head. So he goes back to try to be the hero, and right when he goes to shoot Ghostface in the head, it doesn't go so well for him, and he ends up getting stabbed. So kind of unfortunate, but I guess kind of a fitting ending. I feel like in this movie, the ending you need is kind of to be killed in order to have your character, I guess, the proper send-off for this kind of movie. Seems like in a slasher film, especially when they've been around in that many films, right? It kind of feels right to have them die at the hands of a ghost face. So yeah, it was kind of a fitting ending for Dewey. Now, obviously, we know that he's passed on, right? Because, and I'll talk about that more when I review the next movie, which I just saw a couple of days ago. Right, where was I? So this film kind of feels like it's a little flipped. Obviously, it's like almost like killer versus killer, because we know that Sydney is the daughter of Billy Loomis, so she kind of has that, like, kind of that, I guess, what am I trying to say here? She kind of has that shadow following her around, and you can see Billy talking to her at certain points in the movie, so she's having like a little bit of psychotic episodes, I suppose. So yeah, it was kind of interesting to see her just kind of snap at the end of the film and kill what was supposed to be her boyfriend. And I mean, she went off. Like, that was probably the most brutal kill in the entire movie, was her just her just going off and killing her boyfriend by stabbing him a whole bunch of times and then pausing for a second, letting him talk, and then slitting his throat. It was just like, holy cow. What a kill. Now, this movie wasn't necessarily the most, didn't have the most kills in it, as I just watched the kill count episode for the Scream movies. I guess there's been a higher kill count in some of the previous movies, but I feel like this was kind of more of a gore factor than anything else. Now, I will say from the very end of the movie, or from the beginning of the movie, delivering some of possibly the best opening lines. Now, can I remember everything word for word? God, no, but I felt like it was probably one of the better intros to the movie, to the end of the movie, where it just kind of dropped off for me. Because it felt like the legacy characters were almost too invincible. Now, I understand that they probably were greenlit for another movie. Unfortunately, Nev Campbell, who plays Sidney Prescott, didn't return in the next one, which is kind of unfortunate. But I feel like she might be back, seeing as now Scream 7 has been greenlit already. I think them knowing that this movie was probably going to make a lot of money in the box office anyway. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see that the next film has already been greenlit. Now, obviously, it's because they can do that now with the requel type situation, right? Where they can kind of pass the torch on, but also bring back the legacy characters for a fitting ending. Now, I will say the ending did drop off quite a bit for me, because they got them right back in Stu's house, and they had the two killers had them right in the perfect position. Now, I was not expecting this. This was probably the movie I think they've done the best with actually hiding the killer without making it somewhat maybe a little obvious, but also kind of still trying to throw you off the path. In previous movies, I felt that way. Now, in this one, you didn't know who the killer was, because it could have been anybody, because nobody was trusting anybody in these situations, right? So it was kind of funny to all of a sudden just see them all standing in the room, and when who was it? When Chad's girlfriend comes back in, who was she played by? Was it Liv that was Chad's girlfriend? No way. Can't be. I gotta see photos now. Who was Chad's girlfriend? Yeah, there must be a photo of them together somewhere, I would think. Seeing as it didn't really feel like there was like main characters or secondary characters, they all kind of felt like important to the film in this one, which is kind of very different compared to some of the previous ones I found. Okay, Where is a picture of Chad with his girlfriend? There's a lot of pictures of just like the three characters or whatever. Or it seems the characters that got killed. Okay, so this might be her. Okay, it is. Okay, so yeah, Chad's girlfriend comes back into the room, and they think that maybe she's the killer because she's got blood in her hands, and she says, no, I just found Chad, blah, 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 blah. And they go, there's no way. She goes, I'm not the killer. And then out of nowhere, I was not expecting this, but Amber all of a sudden goes, you're right, I am, and just shoots her right in the head. And I'm like, okay, that was a twist and a half, because she seemed like maybe the least expected one to be the killer, because when she went to get more beer, it almost seemed like Mindy might have been the killer, because she was being very suspicious about how things would go down. So I was just like, what a twist. And obviously then when Richie was coming back down, I was kind of like, okay, he's probably going to be the second one. And then I was like, don't let him get too close. And then he stabbed Sam, and I was like, kind of saw that coming a little bit. And I guess they met on like was it like some sort of ad again? So similar to one of the other movies where, yeah, they kind of like meet each other in like a group chat type deals sort of thing, and then they kind of end up being together. So I guess Richie was kind of faking being Sam's boyfriend the entire time. But the thing about this is, and I know that this is a very kind of Scream thing in the past, where the killers talk and then they end up taking too much time explaining what they're going to do rather than just doing it. But in this one, I feel like it was a little unnecessary. Like, they had the perfect ending, and instead of just, killing Sydney and Gail, which they could have done easily, and then maybe having the new characters fight back and end up dying, that would have been a more fitting ending. But for Gail and oh my God, how did I just totally for Gail and Sydney? Jeez. Yeah, for Gail and Sydney to be that invincible, I felt was a little ridiculous. And just how easy it was for them to kill somebody that much younger. Especially when, it kind of seemed like this killer was a lot smarter and always one step ahead, sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't that great of an ending to me, and I felt like, oh my God, please, please, by the end of this, just have the legacy characters. Like, Dewey's already dead, right? So it would have been a fitting ending for them to have died at the end of the movie in Stu's house. It just felt to me like they kind of took the ending and completely threw it out the window. Instead of just, that would have been a fitting passing of the torch, if you know what I mean. It kind of makes me a little bit angry still, having that as the ending. But they end up, yeah, they end up lighting. We know how Richie dies. He gets stabbed to death and then his throat slit. And then Amber dies by being lit on fire, which I guess was similar to her death in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So they just kind of left that in, which is kind of a cool thing. But yeah, I was just kind of very disappointed by the ending, and I was enjoying the film right up until that point. But the ending probably this could have been like a 9 out of 10 for me if they just had have done that, I feel. Especially with Neve Campbell not returning the next film, kind of makes me a little bit sad that that's not how they ended her character, by having her die at the end of the film. It just feels like the right kind of send-off for these movies, right? Now, maybe you agree with me, maybe you disagree with me. I just felt like that would have been a very fitting ending, kind of like what happened to Dewey. And it is funny that he said never trust a love interest to oh my God, where is she? Oh, to Sam at the very beginning of the film, and she didn't even take that advice. So, yeah, it's just very, very interesting that she didn't take that advice from Dewey. But it is what it is, I guess. And, 6 out of 10 for this film, unfortunately, because it dropped a little bit for me again, the ending. That's just my opinion. I feel like it could have been a little bit better written, and some of the acting felt somewhat forced throughout the movie, I will say. Now, I know this is the first film from new directors, So they're kind of trying to, they're filling some very big shoes, or trying to fill some very big shoes with Wes Craven being the previous director of these movies. That's no easy feat to capture the likeness of what he was able to do on in a movie. So yeah, kudos to them for at least. I would say it was a fitting tribute to Wes Craven for sure, but not my favorite Scream film for sure out of all of them. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next review. Bye bye for now.